I heard this one was horrible. I heard that this debate was the worst thing to ever happen. So I guess we'll see. Tom Bilyeu, the NFT scammer. Yeah, that's what I heard.
So when I look at Trump, we're making some money now through tariffs, which I would argue are also doing external damage. But forget it. Just look at the consumer. So tariffs are probably one of the worst ways to tax the United States. And then he expanded the tax cuts, which is severely.
It is. Tariffs are useful, but only for niche scenarios. Places where tariffs can actually be useful is when you want to protect a certain specific industry that your country has because it is like the only primary industry that it has. Like, for example, if your country is a manufacturing country, all right, and the only export that you have is steel, generally you do actually want to tariff steel imports. Why? Because you want to protect your steel industry. You don't want other people buying cheaper steel from overseas over your own country in the process when you also need steel, right? You want people to buy steel from your country so then you could keep the economy going, right? That is what tariffs should be used for, okay? What doesn't make sense is if you apply tariffs to every single country ever, including Australia, in which you have a market surplus versus Australia. So to be very clear, when Australia is trading with us, there is no trading deficit. There is a 10% trading surplus with Australia. We're gaining more from trading with Australia than Australia technically is gaining with us, and yet we are still putting tariffs on them. Give me a reason how that makes any lick of sense in any way whatsoever on Liberation Day. It makes no sense, okay? It's silly. It's stupid, all right? Yeah, exactly. There's no working in theory, okay? It's just a net con to the whole world, okay? Including Trump, by the way, but he's too stupid to realize that.
Decreasing our government revenue. And then he peeled back all of our IRS collection stuff because they hate it. And then to satiate our debt woes, we got Doge, which went from saving 2 trillion to maybe 9 billion, if that. And it's like everything I've seen Trump do is horrible. Kamala wouldn't have solidified the tax cuts, which would have helped a lot on the revenue side of things. They would have maintained the hiring of the IRS agents, which so we can enforce the tax codes on the books, which is good. And then we wouldn't be doing this weird tariff thing, so we could negotiate better trade deals if we wanted to, or we would at least continue to have the poorest people be able to afford the things that they want without disproportionately taxing them to try to make up for some new thing that she wouldn't have continued, which was the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act. Those are the big things that I see, and it just feels like all of them playing totally opposite directions from the Democrats and the Republicans.
Yeah, it's interesting. Preparing for this episode and listening to
we're getting really into this.
I know nothing about like the China issues, and I will admit that I am just completely out my depth when it comes to China. I'm sorry, I'm just not familiar with talking about China, so my apologies for lacking on that part of my commentary. However, when it comes to tariffs, okay, all right, let's talk about tariffs, okay?
I mean, I love this. Hopefully my audience at least will enjoy this as well, as we've really become an economic-focused group. But there are base assumptions that you and I don't share that make us look at the same thing and then walk away with very different conclusions.
And what is the most important base assumption you think we're different on?
Based on what I know about you, I think the most important thing is the threat level you feel from Trump. And your threat level from Trump is, I don't know if, I think you would say that at least in your lifetime, there has never been a politician that was more dangerous than Trump we actually break the American system and we go down a super dark authoritarian path, like in reality, not in haha meme land.
Yeah, well, I would say we're already down that path. We've taken several steps down it already,
Yeah, so that's where we disagree. I don't share that assessment, even though I'll look at all the same things and I'm going to nod and be like, yeah, that's terrible, and all the places you would expect me to, but the amplitude of him does not hit a threshold for me where I feel like this is a virus that's going to escape the lab and this is just going to go awry. Now, trust me, it is entirely possible that life teaches me that I am wildly misreading the situation because I do think that he has authoritarian tendencies. I do think if he saw a way to run for another term, he would run for another term. We look at these things and...
Can I ask just on that? It's like a thing. This is maybe a little unfair because I'm sure you talk to a lot of people, maybe you don't have all this in your head, but can you think of, if you were to think of our talk like a year ago, we both made different predictions about what we thought like Trump would look like. Do you think there was anything that I was majorly off on? And then do you think there was anything you were majorly off on?
When I hear you describe what's happening, it's not the world I recognize. So it would be, is he doing authoritarian things? Yes. Did you call that? Yes. Is the stuff that he's doing freaking me out? No. So National Guard, sending him into...
Well, of course, it's not going to be freaking you out. You are white. And I'm going to assume that he's wealthy. Notice how the people who say, oh yeah, this is not the world that I'm living in, I don't recognize anything that you're saying. Well, they're all white. why are they all white? I wonder why they're all white. Isn't that interesting, right?
The States, it's weird. He shouldn't do it if
They're either white or they're colored and they're terminally online, right?
they don't want him to, unless something's really like out of pocket. That one to me feels like my wife, if she is about to come on her period, she really does parse data differently.
Sure.
Wait, what? Wait, wait, what? What did he say?
Stimulus differently. So it would be,
Bilyeu is a billionaire?
is he?
Dude, if he's a billionaire... Wait, if he's a billionaire, then he is wealthy, uber wealthy, right? Because, yeah, if he's a billionaire, no?
Doing authoritarian things? Yes. Did you
Wait, what did he
call
say?
that? Yes. Is the stuff that he's doing freaking me out? No. So National Guard, sending him into the States, it's weird. He shouldn't do it if they don't want him to, unless something's really like out of pocket. That one to me feels like my wife, if she is about to come on her period, she really does.
Why is he... What? That is so wild. Why would he say that? Wait, what? I don't... Wait, what? Come on her... If my wife could come during her period... Okay, that's fucking weird as fuck to mention in the middle of this, but... Okay, I guess. Great.
Parse data differently.
Sure.
Stimulus differently. She responds to stimulus differently. But I know you don't say it the first moment you notice it. You really got to push in deep before you're like, okay, hold on a second. I think the stimulus.
You're gonna push in deep. Okay, all right. You're okay. You TMI. Okay, time out. Okay, I think this constitutes sexual harassment. Okay, pause. Okay, just stop. Okay, stop. You need to stop right now.
It's
okay?
no longer,
Please.
or the response no longer matches the stimulus. So it's like you really got to give it some room to breathe. So I personally don't mind what he's doing because I don't like take the space outside of the ICE facility. To me, like law and order, like you got to buckle down on that. You can't have people throwing shit, breaking shit, throwing rocks. That's just a hard pass for me.
Like this on the conspiracy
so
stuff,
for him
I'm
to
not
go in and
surprised.
say, hey, we're cleaning this up. When I hear the numbers on
Something
Chicago.
real quick. So you said clean this up. So here's something I'd be curious about, because you know a lot of numbers in terms of when 130%, debt to GDP ratio or 18 months is unsustainable, whatever. I'm curious, how many countries have survived after the head executive has started to weaponize the military against its own citizenry? Curious what the standard survival rate is on a country past that point, because what Trump is doing with the National Guard is something that I don't know, since the Civil War, I am not aware of any president ever abusing the National Guard in that way. They're not supposed to deploy to a state without the consent of the governor, and they're generally supposed to do it in like times of great emergency with the governor requesting. So
it's interesting. Again, you and I look at the same thing and we see something different. So I don't view what he's doing as weaponizing the military against his own citizenry. That is definitely not what I read.
Okay, but he is. Like, for example, he is sending in the National Guard into cities like Chicago in order to make a show of force, right? The primary reason why Trump does that is so then he is able to intimidate liberals, right? So then he is able to intimidate the Democratic voter base, right? It is a show of force specifically to show that if you go against me, if you are anti-Trump, I will weaponize the military against you, and I'm not afraid to do that. And I don't think the military is going to say no to Trump because he's the commander-in-chief. He gets to send in the National Guard to do shit like that. So as far as I'm concerned, the National Guard is also the same, all right? They don't care. They just follow orders because in the American military, you are expected to be a robot. You're expected to be someone who just simply follows orders, right? So you're not expected to question the order coming from a superior way above, right? So, yeah, I don't know. This is, yeah.
So factually it just is. If a military person is turned for law enforcement purposes, that's the military against the citizen.
But if they're upholding the laws of
they're
the
not supposed to uphold the laws. That's not what the military is for. The military is to fight foreign enemies. Laws are upheld by, you can say federal law enforcement or state law enforcement.
To be very fair, the National Guard is more for domestic affairs, but that's neither here nor there.
Personal local law enforcement, but not the military.
So looking into the specifics of whether he's breaching the Constitution or not is a different question. But I will say, just like you feel like, listen, there's checks and balances that are going to keep Mamdani, even though he has the same.
But who cares about whether or not he's breaching the Constitution? I think the main topic to really hammer in on is whether or not it's a moral action, right? I don't care whether or not it is within his right to do so, okay? It could be entirely in line with the Constitution, but I think that people need to stop making this argument. People need to stop making an argument based off of breaking the Constitution, okay? Unless you're talking to a soldier who has sworn by the Constitution, or you're talking with any official or politician who has sworn by the Constitution, right? Then you can hold them to that. However, I think that people don't actually give a fuck about the Constitution. That's the truth. I don't think the American people give a fuck about the Constitution. I think what they actually, because anybody, as long as the person is on their side, I think they could justify bending the rules of the Constitution or breaking it outright in order to enact changes that they really, really, really want, right? That's at least the way that I kind of look at it. Not true. Okay, we're gonna have to agree to disagree though, right? Because the way I kind of look at it is, a lot of people say, oh, I care about privacy, but then, you know, everybody wants, like, would be willing to sacrifice their privacy for a free burger every day, right? Yeah, MAGA doesn't care about the Constitution. Well, sure, but then I question. Okay, I agree with you, but I also ask myself, okay, do they care? Do like liberals care about the Constitution if President Gavin Newsom breaks the Constitution to go after his political enemies? Well, then I think to myself, I think people would actually not really care all that much if Gavin Newsom happened to do that, because Gavin Newsom is like epic and based, right? I don't know. Like, that's the way I kind of look at it. But yeah.
Murderous ideology that has killed and killed and killed.
Okay. My point is that if you're going to be talking to a MAGA person, just do not try to appeal to how much someone should follow the Constitution, okay? I think you should just be talking about mainly if it's morally right or it's morally wrong. It's probably not good if someone is trying to use the military to intimidate their enemies in a domestic front, right? American government, American president should be a president for all Americans, right? Not just the Americans they represent, right? But yeah.
There are things that are going to stop him from being able to kill and kill and kill. I don't think Trump is going to use the military.
Gavin wouldn't do that because we respect the Constitution. That's the point. I probably would not respect the Constitution. In my opinion, if we're really going tit for tat, in my opinion, I genuinely think that it is better to break the Constitution to go after our political enemies because they have also done it, right? If they don't care about the Constitution, why should we do that? Why should we care about the Constitution if they don't care about the Constitution, right? You can only play the game if both sides play the game, right? What's the point in following the Constitution if the other side, like, doesn't follow it, right? I don't know. It's just silly.
To coup.
Like, for example, the reason why you're justified in committing war crimes against Hamas, right? And I wouldn't be against you as much if you decided to do some crazy shit against Hamas, is because Hamas also does that shit back, right? Because Hamas doesn't obey any kind of Geneva Conventions. They don't obey any kind of rules when it comes to war, right? So if someone does some crazy shit against Hamas, I probably wouldn't care as much, right? It's the same thing. Everyone has to follow the rules, or nobody follows the rules, right? It can't be one side is playing by the rules and the other side doesn't, right? Yeah, I don't know. We follow the Constitution because we're American. We just prosecute people who don't follow the Constitution. That's fine, okay? And I agree with you, okay? However, if we had to bend the rules a little bit to go after people who, in a vengeful way, there's nothing wrong with that. In my opinion, that would fix the spirit of the American people, okay? It's necessary even. It's morally necessary even. Yeah.
The cities or anything like that. And if he does, that would be a huge alarm bell for me.
Even though he did try to do a coup before, and even though he has said that he intends to deploy the military against the wishes of people, and even though he is talking about extra security measures around polling stations that he's saying.
The way that I see, and I think you're referencing Jen.
I don't know what you mean by bend rules. Okay. All right. I mean, obviously it would be a case-by-case scenario, right? But if Trump is so blatantly like breaking the Constitution, if later on, okay, if we ever get control back of the government and some Democrat does something like that, I probably wouldn't care as much, to be honest, right? I don't care. Go do your thing, King.
January 6th, the way that I see January 6th is
we get a little breaking of the rules, okay, as a treat.
Is something along the lines of, I'm not going to coup the government unless you're going to do it, right? One of those where it's like, he's not coming out and saying it. I've seen what that really looks like. Like if you look in history at people who are actually like, I'm here to coup the government, it looks dramatically different.
It looks about exactly the same. Hitler looked exactly the same.
No way.
Yeah, for sure, 100%.
That is absolute madness. So this Hitler was amassing like private brown shirts, getting them to go and physically beat people up, not like...
Wait, hold on. Is that not what's happening right now? Is that not what's happening right now? Is there are brown shirts going around and they're beating people up? Isn't that literally what's happening right now? Am I tripping here? Isn't that literally what's happening right now? I'm so confused. When you use the tit for tat argument against following rules, we're not talking about the Constitution. We're talking about norms that are not written down. No, I disagree. I think tit for tat should apply to literally everything, in my opinion. You know?
So the biggest difference between Hitler and Trump was...
But it's okay. Okay, we're both on the same side. We just disagree on how much we should like bend the rules or break the rules or anything like that, right? That's fine. Okay, that's not that much of a big disagreement. It's fine. It's okay.
It's very unfortunate is that Hitler had to be more intelligent and more subversive because Hitler didn't already have the support of the entire population. So where you reference brown shirts, Donald Trump is just deploying ICE agents and trying to fight with the Supreme Court that he can racially profile people, or he is deploying the National Guard to places saying that he's solving crime. Like anytime your head executive of your country is saying we're using the military for law enforcement, that's such an insanely scary idea. And when you're deploying, when Governor Newsom is speaking at some arena and for no reason Trump is just deploying federal agents all over this, like this is one of the reasons why the Bill of Rights, why the Constitution was created. It's one of the reasons why we had the Articles of Confederation before our Constitutional Convention, is because states said, I'm not going to let a federal government send your shit in here and tell us how to do our stuff. And now as conservatives and maybe the country, a lot of people in the country are like, oh, well, you know, if the military wants to do law enforcement, that should be a deeply unnerving thing. I just don't see much of a difference there in terms of Trump sending his people. Like he's tried to get more people to sign up for ICE. He's increased the budget of it like 10x. He's written executive orders to like try to facilitate more law enforcement joining,
Wait, doesn't ICE have a bigger budget than the military now?
He's military.
So yeah, I mean, ICE is just straight up the SS, right? Does anybody disagree with that? ICE is just straight up like the fucking Gestapo, right?
So, people like the brown shirts eventually become things like the Gestapo or whatever, right? Like the SS.
Oh, okay, all right.
And Trump's just...
Wait, what the fuck? Okay, all right. Wow, thanks for stealing my takes.
It's already in government. It's already president has it. So I just don't see a significant difference there, I guess.
So when I look at that and with...
Fuck. Hello? Is there a glitch in the Matrix?
Reading Mein Kampf, seeing what his plan was, seeing how he enacted it, seeing how he would walk into a room with his thugs and be like, are you going to get on board? If they say no, he'd walk out and his thugs would just shoot him. So you may have a mental map that that's the kind of person that Trump is.
ICE is less funded than the army? Oh, okay.
I do not share that mental map at all. And because I don't have that mental map of Trump, I can't make the jump to like...
Yeah, absolute cinema. What the fuck?
Oh, this is the kind of thing. It's just going to keep escalating and escalating and escalating.
So when Trump says things about like deporting Mamdani, that doesn't sound like it's approaching that, because that's that's the one step off of like killing somebody. Is I'm going to deport.
Is just more funded than any other government program? Yeah, sure.
I'm exiling you from my country because I don't like you politically.
Destiny, I like you a lot, but you will say the
what do you think is going to happen?
Most unhinged shit. And I'll just be like, look, it's Destiny. You got to contextualize it. He's got a whole thing about you have to use this kind of bombastic rhetoric to get people's attention, but he's really a sensible guy. And so I am always quick.
Clip it? How about you clip it? What the fuck? Clip it.
To be like, I think I know who Destiny is as a person. Like, I'm going to like give space for that.
Okay.
I feel the same way about Trump.
Do you think that I would speak the exact same way if I was the president of the United States? There are ways that you talk to friends that I'm sure you would never talk to an employee like. There are ways
Here's how I've mapped you.
Okay.
You are extremely intelligent.
Sure.
You have many gears and you will use the gear that's effective. If you saw that you need...
Bro, can you imagine being glazed by a billionaire? That's like being glazed by a kindergartner, dude.
...did to do one of your patented... I say unhinged in a fun, playful way. If you had to do one of your patented Destiny... no longer Stephen Bonnell, like Destiny unhinged rants because your base needed to know you were there, the thing that made them love you, that person's still in there, that you've not become some cut politician, you would do it. And
so I guess I understand you saying that, but like there are things that like even in Mamdani's acceptance speech saying that like he's going to be mayor for all of New York and he's going to try to do whatever he can to do right by all of, New Yorkers or whatever. I'll say things like, I think MAGA's lost their fucking mind. I think half this country is insane. If I was an elected leader of people, especially if half my constituents were MAGA, I wouldn't say that, right? I think it's a little bizarre to look at my speech patterns and then say, well, as long as Trump is better than that, like we occupy totally different lanes.
Trump is better than that.
I say a lot of unhinged stuff, but my role is entertainer, activist, like political pundit at most. Like that's the lane that I'm in.
I like how Destiny gives, I don't give a fuck about what you think about me stare when people glaze him. Well, the problem is that typically when people glaze him, the issue is that they followed it up with like just basically underhand. They're trying to pad out the insult that they're about to use, right? If that makes sense. So it's not glazing just for no reason in order to like make someone feel better or to actually compliment someone. It's glazing to use as a way to manipulate someone, just like how the Lannisters would glaze one another in order to manipulate one another. Like it's like fuck. Was it? Is it Tywin Lannister who is like glazing Tyrion sometimes in order to keep him in the cycle of abuse? It's the same thing, right? You can't just glaze with like, if you glaze with an objective in mind, yeah, that's like, obviously that's probably not the way, right? That's not good. That's not genuine, right?
If I was doing advocacy for a particular cause, if I was an elected politician or leader, like my tone would change significantly to match the new
Level
role.
of base,
Sure,
yeah.
I get that. But if Trump doesn't view the world that way and is therefore violating the ethos that you have, this is an idea that's helped me a lot. If you look at the way somebody behaves and go, what would it mean if I did that? And then you're like, holy shit, that would be so crazy. You have to look at them and go, what does it mean when they do that? So and this is where we just read Trump differently. And I know I'm totally, if he ends up being a maniac, then I was just wrong and I could not read this guy and I made catastrophic
I understand you
errors.
say that, but like he has done all the things.
I think you're misreading it. I think the view of amplitude that you have is way off the fucking mark. So him sending in troops, if he...
That's not a big deal.
To me, not at all.
You think him playing games with...
He sent them to LA.
Sure.
What's different in LA? Literally nothing.
And no other president has found the need to do this, to function this way.
No, we're not. This is the first time we've been in a populist moment in modern history. So,
And then the second thing is, or another thing is, what about playing games with FEMA funds? Telling some states that if you don't follow
Is a game like Slay the Spire? Yeah, except gotcha game and gooning.
me politically, I'm not going to make FEMA funds. He was saying he was going to pull federal funding from
Trump
New York.
will weaponize anything and everything that he thinks he can get away with.
Sure, but so that's the thing he'll do, right?
Yeah.
But you just said weaponize anything and everything he can get away with. So why not deport Mamdani if he could?
Yeah. Would I be surprised if he actually deported Mamdani? Yes, I would be.
Why?
But I think
if I'm looking for
What? Why, dude? They're literally floating the idea already, right? Like, aren't they already floating the idea that they were gonna deport Mamdani? Isn't that already happening? Wait, I'm right on this, right? Like, they're already floating the idea that they were gonna deport Mamdani. Yes. Doesn't help that Tom didn't get involved into politics until the Biden administration investigated him for an NFT collection he did. It's okay. Everyone has to start somewhere, right?
leadership on this, I would look at Rubio and the State Department. I would look at the fact that they abolished all of USAID without any input from Congress, and I would look at the fact that they are selectively deporting visa holders based on their position on Israel-Palestine. That seems to be that maps on pretty cleanly.
So you look at that and feel like, whoa, we've gone full Gestapo.
Yeah, he's taking the First Amendment rights away from visa holders for issues that he thinks are politically expedient, and then deporting people as a result of that. That's like way beyond any American pale that I think that like it's so far gone. That's crazy at that point.
Look, if he's violating due process in a way that I'm unaware of, yeah, bad.
Okay.
Wait, wait, what? How about Kilmar Abrigo Garcia? Hello? Hasn't this guy been all over the news this entire time? Kilmar Abrigo Garcia? Wait, so he's just never heard of this guy or what? Like
Suing pollsters because he doesn't like the polls that they do.
Kilmar,
Or
right?
suing the media
Yeah.
companies that
True, and Seltzer, right? Suing Ann Seltzer for getting a poll wrong, right? Which is the entire point of a poll, is that you can actually get shit wrong, right? That's the entire point of a poll, is that you acknowledge that there's a possibility of getting shit wrong, right? Dude, what the fuck, dude?
FCC pressure to
Yeah,
get
but so
Jimmy
this
Kimmel
is where
out.
we get.
And then also, fuck, not talking about due process. Fuck. Okay, never mind. Not due process. Jimmy Kimmel, going after law firms, right? Going after law firms, putting law firms inside of executive orders, trying to make it as quiet as possible so then people don't notice, right? Explicitly naming law firms that has went against him before in an effort to punish them in order to make them cave in. Yeah, like these are all things that have happened and are happening and still probably going to happen in the future.
Get into the dirty tricks. First of all, Jimmy Kimmel went back.
only
Liberal fake media Foodshops. He's never heard about that. Oh yeah, you're right. He only sees real news, like his Twitter feed.
So I don't
He
think there
did
was
come
any
back after a huge
major
public
pressure.
outcry. There was pressure by the FCC to have him fired, and then a threat to pull licenses from all the
Oh, based. Okay, I'm glad that you actually clipped this based. Shit.
So
Yeah, I mean, ISIS just straight up the SS, right? Does anybody disagree with that? ISIS just straight up like the fucking Gestapo, right?
you know, like people like the brown shirts eventually become things like the Gestapo or whatever, right? Like the SS.
Oh, okay, all right.
And Trump's just
Wait, what the fuck? Okay, all right. Jesus,
underlying
dude.
companies that they didn't.
Right. But do you think that that's unique to him? Do you
Yes.
think that, interesting, that does not match the reality that I live in?
There's no example you can give on the Democrat side of anything remotely like that.
So when you look at all of the information on the Russia hoax, to you, not a hoax, Russia really was involved. That was all above board.
1,000,000%
wasn't
of
trying
course.
to do. Okay, so then.
But I've read all the underlying documents.
Yeah,
I've read the Mueller
very fair.
report. I've read the, like, it's all, not only is it true, it's worse than most people
So
even.
your map is Democrats honorable.
Just a reminder, okay, for Russiagate, keep in mind that in terms of Russiagate, the reason why they didn't end up investigating Trump is just simply because they were afraid of what they might find. Okay, again, it's kind of like, oh yeah, this is the door to the Lovecraftian abyss, and I don't want to open it and see. Do you know why they were afraid of finding out whether or not he has ties to Russia? Is because then they have to contend with the fact that the sitting president at the time was a traitor to the United States, and you would be like, there's, how do you remove him? How do you do anything, right? Everything will be upturned in that moment. Also, it would be breaking precedent. So that's what Mueller was like thinking about at the time. So that's why they didn't want to open Pandora's box, right? But just so you know, literally everybody who was close to Trump was essentially a Russian puppet, right? Every single one of them had Russian ties. Every single one of them ended up in prison as well, right? Yeah, I don't know. And then a lot of them also cracked under investigative pressure. So, and they have confessed that there's a bunch of crazy shit going on. So, just so you know, okay, when people say Russiagate was a hoax, all right, it's because it's like way worse. It's just straight up way worse. Okay, I'm sorry. Yeah. Giving pardons to people who conspired to keep you in office, even though you objectively lost a democratic election. Yes.
Republicans, Trump especially, unhinged liars who will do whatever to amass more power.
100%, yeah.
Okay. Not my read in the slightest.
Okay.
So
and then I'll just say that a year ago, I made a bunch of predictions. I feel like, oh yeah, go ahead.
What the fuck?
Was Biden cognitively capable of being president?
I think absolutely. I never saw any evidence that he wasn't.
Then we just, again, we look at the same thing and we see something different.
Sure.
And
If I were to point to an example, if I were to ask you, did Biden need his executive orders explained to him when they were brought? You couldn't find a single thing of that happening.
I have
right?
to imagine Biden wouldn't be able to take his own medication without somebody explaining it.
Sure, you can say that. But the difference is that Trump has already lied about his medical history. Do you acknowledge that? That his doctor has lied as well?
I don't know, but would not be
He has the
surprised.
chronic venous.
Oh yeah, like didn't his doctors literally say that he was some kind of like 6'5" Giga Chad, even though literally he does not seem like a 6'5", 6'7" motherfucker? That's literally lying about your like fucking history. But I guess we all conveniently forgot about that part. Does anyone remember that? Maybe I'm the only one that remembers that, and nobody else remembers. Dude, it's crazy how like people just have such short memories. Holy shit. Yeah, 12% body fat. It's just like the most unhinged. Like you're basically saying that Trump is the reincarnation of like God. Like he is the fittest athlete to ever exist, right? Like he is the fittest motherfucker, right? What? Huh?
The issue
Would
that
not be
okay, so
surprised.
he lied about his medical history. Biden never lied about his medical history that we can see.
Then he doesn't know it or something.
Yeah, 6'2", 20 pounds. Yeah, 220 pounds. What the fuck, dude?
The man had
Hello?
dementia. Whether it was Alzheimer's or not, I don't know. But like,
You can say that, but you know
Wait. And Trump doesn't have dementia for contradicting himself in the same sentence?
evidence for that.
yes, I do.
What?
I
Because of the way he
trust
spoke?
my eyes because of the fact that inside of their own government in administration, they had a group that referred to themselves as the Politburo, which, as you well know, is the group in a communist country that runs the country. So to me, like, and again, this
What?
is a what are
Wait, what the fuck?
my
are you talking
sensitivities
about?
versus what are yours. I am totally freaked out by communism, socialism.
Okay,
for
so let's get
reasons.
away from the random reports of
Yeah, I can tell you're freaked out, okay? As a billionaire, you are freaked out. Wait, is it true that he's a billionaire? Holy shit. What the fuck did he do in his life to... Why are all the evil people the one with the most money? Tom Bilyeu's estimated net worth is approximately $400 million. Holy shit, dude. Oh my god.
what was how did that come out in a policy manner? what is our external evidence
It
of
is
like
my map of the situation that you did not, for some number of years or some percentage of the time, that Biden was
Protein
not
part magnet.
actively the one running the country.
because I don't have any evidence of that. Whereas
Well,
today I can say, so like, for instance, here's the thing. We just saw Trump admit that he had no idea, I guess, that he pardoned the Binance guy or whatever.
He didn't say he didn't know that he pardoned him. He said he didn't know who he was.
So who pardoned him?
This guy's telling me who I trust. You should pardon this guy because this is all bullshit. This is Biden going after these guys. Yeah, Biden going after anybody in crypto. Cool.
So what you've just described is there's somebody else running the government besides Trump.
No, I think look, even as a CEO, it's not that you're not running the company. It's that you trust certain people to have a sense of like what's going on.
Wait, hold on. But he'll never apply the standards to Biden.
They're going to bring it to you, get you to weigh in.
Also, Chinchilla, can you post that clip onto like Taliban and to LSF and stuff like that? Yeah. Listen, we got to get into these spaces, okay?
But I'm saying if they're not bringing it to him, if they're not getting him to weigh in, that he's just completely checked out because he can hardly talk and hold a thought in his head, that's a very different thing than you're running an entire country. You've got all these international
So who is
deals.
telling Trump who to pardon?
I don't know who that person
That's supposed to be the power exclusively granted to the president.
Yeah, so they bring it to him. They make the argument. And he says,
Who's
yeah,
they?
I'm here for it. Whoever the person was that came to him.
Who is that?
But if
it doesn't bother you, don't even know who that is?
It's a knowable name, right?
No, it's not. We don't know who
I was wondering what that noise was. Your headphone cable is hitting your pop filter. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, I'm going to try not to shake my legs as much, okay?
Saying they're going to like...
Listen, okay? I have, what is it called? Restless leg syndrome.
Keep that under
I'm saying that the weird stuff that you're worried about under Biden, that we have no evidence of it ever happening, we see it happening right now on TV with Trump, but for some reason you're not perceiving that. Trump is pardoning people. He doesn't know anything about them, and he can't answer questions about them.
Where's the clip? I can post it on DG Reddit. Yeah, wait. Could you link? Chinchilla. Wait. Post here. That's the clip.
There are politicians being killed in this country. It happened to the 2 Minnesota lawmakers. He didn't know anything about it sometimes, even though he did 6 months earlier. He told Walls, I'm not calling that guy. He's like, yeah.
You give such a pass to Biden in a way that I cannot recognize.
Wait, what do you mean? But you give the same pass to Trump. What? He literally doesn't apply the same standard to Trump. What are you talking about?
Because I'm trying to tell me, what is the evidence of Biden being senile that doesn't involve him being a shitty debater?
Put the clips on. He literally can't speak at times.
So besides him being a bad speaker?
No. It's not being a bad speaker. That is cognitive decline.
So you have no examples besides him being... If we were to compare...
This is so weird.
Well, I'm curious. If we were to compare Biden's
years.
State of the Union to Trump's State of the Union, which one do you think sounded more coherent?
I mean, with Trump, for sure, far and away.
Absolutely not. I totally disagree. Trump not only, so for instance, Biden was able to deliver his State of the Union while I think Boebert and Marjorie Taylor Greene were standing up and screaming at him in Congress. He had a comeback for him and he continued on. When Trump had any people making noise, Mike Johnson started saying he was going to throw people out of Congress because he couldn't deal with it. Trump repeats the same 5 talking points over and over again, right? Well, the difference is you can say, well, just look and see it. And I can give you example after example. How many illegal immigrants came to this country? It started at 10 million under Biden. Then it was 15, 20. The last I heard from Trump, it was 25 million came in. I don't know what the actual number is. I see that he's lied about his health. That seems to be the case. He just got an MRI recently. We don't know what it was for. They're not releasing the evidence there.
Yeah, also not only that, there was a period of, he's talking about Trump, right? There was a period of time when Trump didn't show up and everybody thought he was dead. Turns out he most likely had a stroke, right?
I won because wall of facts,
sure, it's admittedly
is a very impressive technique that you use.
Sure.
But if you take them one by one, should we have opened the border?
Should we have opened the border?
Yeah, just open borders, let people in.
No, but we never had open borders.
Really?
Correct.
So should we have treated the borders the way that we did? Like you just hung up on the word open?
Well, the only reason why Trump did something for the borders, and lest we forget, is because Trump stopped the border bill from being passed when Biden was in office because he did not want Biden to get the credit. So then he is able to get the credit. It is stolen valor, plain and simple. It is a stolen bill. It is a stolen policy. And Trump has not passed any policies relating to the border other than sending troops down there to declare an emergency situation out of it. It's just completely silly. This guy is a fraud. This guy is a moron. And to be frank, okay, this Tom guy is an inbred, vegetable drooling retard. And honestly, fuck this guy.
Yeah, because open implies some
Did we do a good thing over Biden's term in terms of it positively impacting America? With the borders.
We could have had better border enforcement, I think. There were a lot of other issues going on in the country at the time.
But are you worried that I'm going to got you there? I'm trying to build a mental model of what you believe.
Well, the conversation is, how do we think who is senile versus the other person?
Yeah, but remember, so you and I are probably involved in a very different conversation right now. So
I'm just thinking in terms of senility, in terms of mental faculty. Yeah. If I'm looking at mental faculty, so one at a time. So the very first thing, I've never seen somebody have to explain an executive order to Biden. Every single one that Trump signs is explained to him. And oftentimes it looks like he doesn't even know what he's like. Oh.
Also, not only that, there are reports that, so every single president every day, okay, they are forced to participate in a meeting, okay? This meeting is supposed to be the newest intelligence news that people that people in the government are discovering about other countries and things that the president needs to be, briefed about. The president needs to attend these meetings every day. Okay. Turns out that whenever the president, aka Trump, attends these meetings, do you know what's happening? Is that he gets bored, he falls asleep, unless they put his name somewhere in there. They have to forcefully insert his name somewhere in every single piece of news, so then he would actually pay attention. Because otherwise, he wouldn't even pay attention. Trump wouldn't even pay attention to the news, to the briefings, to the intelligence, top secret intelligence briefings, unless his name was somehow inserted in there. Is one of the most childish, most stupid, most dumbest things ever. Okay, you cannot defend this. All right, as far as I'm concerned, nobody says this for Biden. Okay, so I just want to put that out.
Oh, this sounds like a good idea. And then
and also, everybody forgets about it.
Okay, so on that, what I see is somebody who, we've had all these policy discussions. I know what they're going to end up being. When you present them to me, just remind me which one this is. And then, yep, cool, got it. This is not somebody who's like, I have no idea what's going on and I'm befuddled.
Okay.
Like that is, now that may be your read, but that definitely is not my read. Like that seems so like blasé. Yeah, got it. Like there's so many things, so many moving parts.
So what are the moving? Okay, so then the second thing, Trump said he was going to Russia instead of Alaska to go and talk to Putin. What are the gaps for Biden here in terms of mixing up even like the places he's visiting?
Does that, like if he said I'm going to Azerbaijan to meet with Putin, that might be a little bit weird. But if you say the country name of the person, then
Biden might have some moments or mumbling or brain farts, but Trump will go on rants about how the windmills are killing the whales. Bro, people are just mad because Biden is like quiet and mumbling. That's it. Like he just mumbles and fucking yeah, all the time. It's just yeah, I don't know. So stupid.
Number of times I see people point out gaffes that Trump made that I'm like, God damn, I could see myself doing the same thing. And I'm not in cognitive decline. So that one like just doesn't feel like a big gotcha. Like
tries to argue with Zelensky, you got invaded in 2015 instead of 2014. I don't know why he tried to argue that point.
Yeah, but now you're doing the thing my wife does where you think you're average and everybody.
Okay, now Destiny has become his wife. Very cool. Okay, I approve of this art.
Else is dumb. Like your mind remembers facts in a way that the average person just is never going to remember.
Be the average person. He's the president.
I get it, but he's going to be good at different things. So he obviously knows how to aggregate people around him to get into power. He was, should have been an invisible real estate developer in New York that nobody ever knows about, but has been able to make himself absolutely.
No, that's wrong. People always knew about Trump. And so, I don't know.
The most famous person on planet Earth. You can hate that all you want, but it is.
I don't hate it. I acknowledge you won a popularity contest. I got that. Okay.
Cool. So unfortunately, as you said at the beginning of the interview, that's really what today is about. We live in that age. But
you could be senile and be popular.
I think it is important for each of us to understand that we look at the same thing and we walk away with a different read on it. And then we can explain why we think that. Like I have tremendous fears of the distortions that happen on the pathology that happens on the left. I'm far more afraid of that. And when I look at Trump, even though I am afraid of the pathology on the right, I don't see Trump as having enough of the amplitude of those types of things, having looked as closely as I've looked at Hitler specifically.
Now you're doing what my wife is doing. Who says that? Dude, didn't someone in chat say like he brags about how much he loves his wife? What the fuck? Why is he throwing his wife under the bus? Why is he throwing his wife under the bus to like insult Destiny? Yeah, exactly. He must really hate his wife. Like, hello? What the fuck? Am I tripping out here? Why is he saying this? Huh? What the fuck?
Specifically, dude? I just do not see the amplitude.
Poly market odds on Tom getting a divorce within the next 3 months. Yeah. I can't imagine being married to someone like this. There's just absolutely no way in hell that this motherfucker, all right, should ever be married with anybody. Okay, it's just not happening. Okay, fuck this guy. This guy sucks. And yeah, I don't know. Actual cringe lord. I hate this guy.
I get where people see like there are similarities here, but the amplitude is just so far off from me. So then I'm like, I don't really have big concerns there. Now, I totally get it. One, I know I could be wrong, and so I don't overtrust myself, and I'm not screaming to the world, hey, this guy's amazing. We got to keep him in power. That is not my take. But that, like, if anybody's just trying to understand me, not necessarily convince me, but understand me, it's like over here on the left, because I've spent so much time reading about how we end up over here trying to do these things out of what I will say is resentment, not a desire to help the poor, but resentment. I understand the mechanisms of how the economy breaks when you do those things. So I'm looking at it going, this is never going to work. And so even if we all say, we can ignore Tom when he says something about Trump, but let's listen over here. And maybe we say, oh, we can, Destiny, when he sounds an alarm on the right, you need to listen. He is super attuned. He's got some blind spots to people on the left just because maybe he gets it more, whatever. Hey, I'm fine with that. I'm not expecting people to just listen and do what I say.
I understand where you're coming from. I guess my thing is that I've heard the klaxon sounding about socialism and communism for 30 years for the Democrats, and I've yet to ever see like even a step really in that direction.
Okay,
and then
let's
on
address
Trump,
that.
Yeah, we've like so far in that I'm like, holy shit, like there's so much.
This is really enlightening.
Okay.
So let me tell you what that sounds like from my perspective.
Okay.
I'm looking at it and I'm like, over the last 40 years, we have gone so far with left policies, lunatic left policies, unfortunately, both from the right and the left, but they've both been running big government, big spending, deficits are fine.
Why are these left instead of, these are just fiscal things? It depends on where you're spending it, whether it's left or right, right?
I'm going with traditional definitions.
Even traditionally, so like Republicans used to be way more hawkish, right? So the big spending there is going to be
I
Republican,
would define small government by Republican. Like Republicans want small government.
Hey, Foodshops, I just got to Act 3. Am I safe to watch your debate with Destiny now, or does more story happen? No, you need to finish the game.
Small government to me
and then you'll be safe.
means that there are just fewer costs.
What about Iraq and Afghanistan?
Don't worry, it won't take long.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Sure.
The last 40 years, remember, I'm not a Republican.
Yeah, no, I understand.
I'm a Democrat.
I'm just saying,
when I look at these two, they have both become completely irresponsible.
Sure. I'm just saying,
because you gave me a very specific thing
Yeah.
that you're saying, and I'm trying to explain how it sounds to me.
Okay, sure.
And what I'm saying is, you say we haven't moved any to the
God, he's just so condescending too. Oh my God. What an insufferable bitch,
left. And I'm like, what the fuck is happening? In the same way that when I go, what do you mean this is not crazy? Like taking the National Guard into LA, what's the problem, bro? And you're like, are you fucking out of your mind? Like that seems so obvious to you. You're like, can I even take this person seriously if they don't see this? That's how I feel about people who are not afraid of what's happening on the left.
Wait, real quick. I understand. I just real thing. Okay,
go ahead.
I'm not disagreeing with you that it's bad. I just feel like we're having a weird, almost no true Scotsmanish fallacy where we're saying that like here are bad left-wing things and one is big government spending.
Wait, what is no Scotsman? I feel like every single time I'm about to get what the fuck it means. Like I feel like I just lose my mind.
And I'm saying big government spending isn't always a left-wing thing. Pursuing a lot of wars, you could argue, is a right-wing thing, depending on what you're looking at. But the government can spend a lot of money, doesn't necessarily make it a left-wing thing. If we're going to define it that way, then we've almost like, through definitions, just won our arguments. And then both parties are basically left-wing party. Or actually, the Republican would be even more left-wing than the Democrat because they spent more than the Democrats.
I have a belief. Okay, if this ends up being wrong, then cool. I have a belief that the modern left, no matter what, they will keep funding entitlements, making them bigger. Because I believe that about the left, then I'm just...
It means that label never applies, so they wiggle out? Oh, okay. So there's, like, for example, if you call someone a fascist, and then they go like, well, I'm technically not a fascist because fascists are X and Y. So you're basically making, like, a definition so specific that, like, nothing will ever be applied, right? Is that what you're saying? It's like getting mad at posers at your in-group, okay? Like stolen valor, right? Like you're trying to define people as okay. So you're trying to define people as like fucking fascist, right? But then they say, oh well, technically he's not a fascist, right? Okay. All right, I got you.
Like, yeah, this is never gonna work.
I know what you're talking about.
At least the right now pays lip service to trying to grow their way out of this. Now, the good or bad news is that is the only option.
No true Scotsman is a fallacy. Like no true American wouldn't follow the Constitution. Okay, I don't really quite get that, but I get it. No true Scotsman is A, Scotsmen are all good. B, but Joe is a Scotsman and he's bad, right? A, Joe is technically a Scotsman and he is bad, but Joe isn't a real Scotsman. Oh, okay. So it's gatekeeping. It's gatekeeping for the sake of bringing yourself to an advantageous position, right? Okay, I get it.
We collectively, left, right, everybody, center, everybody has
I'm so smart.
Let this get to the point where growth is the only option. Nothing else is going to work.
Okay.
So now we've got one guy who's at least paying lip service to it, who's at least trying some things. They're probably crazy and they probably won't work, but he's at least trying. And so for me, as one guy, I'm just like, I am far more comfortable with that than I am with the way that the left is approaching the situation, which is we've got to take care of everybody. We let the borders be wide open. And we want, when a horrific bill is passed,
like when Republican gets out as a Nazi, is like that's not a real Republican because Republicans aren't Nazis. Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay.
We're gonna get our Red Bull no matter what. And I'm just like,
because ever since I've learned the names of a lot of these like fucking fallacies, I've been addicted. Okay, because honestly, not to be a debate bro or a debate pedophile, but like, dude, some of these terms are actually really useful. Okay, like when you call out someone for doing a Mod and Bailey, it's so good. All right. when they're retreating back to is it the Mott where they attack on the Bilyeu? It doesn't matter. Basically, whenever they need to attack, they go in on hyper-specific shit, but when they need to retreat, they go back to a weaker, they go back to a stronger, broader position. So then there's a double standards in terms of the way that they compare things, right? And I'm like, whoa, that's so fucking cool, right? And it's like, whoa, I didn't know that people do this all the time. You know, they run to a hyper-specific definition for expert and then exclude them for whatever group you're talking about, then it's inconvenient for your argument. Yeah, sure.
Yo, like I can't do it.
Okay. And the horrific bill was a Republican bill.
Oh my God, this shit is so cool.
By a Republican Congress and a Republican president, and Republicans have been spending more than Democrats and lead the spending and have worse economies and cause contracting economies more than growing economies. And the last budget surplus we had was under a Democratic president. All the facts just seem to lay out like very clearly and cleanly.
The last time that the average person's wages grew were under Trump. He's at least trying to do something on the world stage to get us back where we are not literally just handing our future to China.
By making enemies of every.
Okay. Wow. Okay. So you said that you really didn't like the way that Trump was doing things right now, but now you're just full-throatedly supporting Trump. Is that what I'm hearing? Because I feel like that's what I'm hearing, right? Because if you guys recall, before it seems as though that he was not, he wasn't like fucking throating Trump, right? But now it just feels as though he is actually trying to like throat Trump. Now it just kind of feels like it. So it's like whatever, man.
Yeah, dude. Look.
Okay.
Again,
right,
I'm not going to
like. I like how his mask slips more and more as this debate happens, right? Because just through exhaustion, there's something in which these like fucking JCS, videos are like, right? Where the reason why a lot of detective JCS interviews are like 4 hours long against like criminals that they suspect to be like committing some crime or some shit like that is because as exhaustion holds on, people are no longer as good at hiding shit, right? If that makes sense. So because they're no longer as good at hiding shit, well, you begin to slip a little bit, right? Your mask begins to slip a little bit. I feel like that's what's going on here. So right now we're at 1 hour and a half, okay? That's pretty long, okay? So at some point you get a little bit exhausted and you're like, right? Your mask slips a little bit, right?
bat for Trump.
He's trying to make everybody like us again, but it's not. They'll hate us now.
When I run the experiment of there's a reason you're making sounds. And the reason you're making sounds is you're trying to convince me of a thing. And so then I go, what thing is he trying to convince me of? And I keep coming back to that the next time that a Republican and Democrat go head to head, I should be wise enough to vote for the Democrat. And for me, what I'm saying is that will come down entirely to the person. So I have no problem voting for a Democrat. My beef is that if I hear
nah, but this is like there has to be a fallacy for this too. Like like the fucking cuck weak shit fallacy. Maybe it's the I have a limp dick and I have erectile dysfunction fallacy or something. But it's the oh yeah, I can totally see myself voting for a Democrat, and then they will never vote for a Democrat ever. Right? Like, oh, I can see myself voting for a Democrat, and then they vote for Trump for a third term, right? Like that's the way that I kind of perceive it. But
economically just.
Yeah, I can see myself voting for a Democrat. Yeah, no shit, Sherlock. I can see myself voting for a Republican in some crazy scenario, right? It doesn't even matter.
Disqualifying words come out of somebody's mouth. It's going to be a hard pass.
What game is this? Chaos Zero Nightmare just came out.
And so we can all say it's a trigger that he hasn't. I think it's completely justified.
I actually 100% agree with you. But in that case, Trump has said so many more obviously disqualifying things than the Democrats.
That's interesting. I totally disagree.
Like, for instance, most Republicans right now don't even acknowledge that a tariff is an import tax. Trump still won't acknowledge that.
As far as I can tell, the entire left tried to shut down crypto, which is
but that didn't happen.
Suicide. It did.
It literally did not. We had 4 years of Biden. It wasn't shut down.
I got sued by the U.S. government because.
Oh no, here we go, guys. Here comes the self-victimization, okay? Whenever someone was pampered as a kid and was raised like a rich white boy who is like a spoiled brat, every single time they will act like this, okay? Every single time they have to go through their fucking self-victimization, okay? See Tectone, see Burger Planet, Burger Andy, Tectone, Hassan, all right? Every single one of them goes through this self-victimization kind of like phase that betrays their entire line of thinking, because if they constantly bring up their self-victimization, then you start to wonder, wait, is any one of your positions like not have to do with your own personal story, right? Because if every single issue has to do with your own personal story in a way, right? Maybe you identify with the Republican Party because the Republican Party did not fuck you over in some way, but the other party did, right? So you're doing it out of spite. So now you just align with the Republican Party on everything, right? Whenever something like that happens, in my opinion, then yeah, like shit. I'm starting to question your entire like fucking world belief. Like, do you care about other people or do you only care about yourself, right?
As I was involved in crypto,
Yeah.
I'm telling you right now, they were trying to chill that the fuck out. I've heard you make the same pitch about, yo, when you've got Elon Musk coming after you, like if it
So for context is that he apparently the Biden administration went after him for his crypto shit, for his crypto scam shit.
were anybody but me, this is the kind of thing that has a chilling effect. It's exactly what it does. It's like, what?
Great stuff.
Like crypto is a
Amazing
legitimate
person.
thing. In fact, it is the only thing that's going to give people a life raft out of the absolute horrific mess that we are in from the dollar. Like you
I can't believe we are here right now at this take. It is the year of our Lord, okay, 2025 in November, 11/11, okay? And we are still debating crypto. We are still debating crypto today, even though right now people have already talked about how stupid the crypto shit is. People have talked about how ridiculous the crypto shit is, but we're still on this. We're still on this for some reason. It's crazy. It's crazy up in this bitch. That's what I've been telling you guys, right? Or are they trying to shut that down? Could it be because it's rampant with schemes and scams? Yeah, of course. Because people have been fucking rug pulling that shit for years before like any kind of like enforcement. And now look what happens. Now the biggest fucking rug pull has happened, right? Trump. Rug pulling Trump coin, right? Wow, it's almost as if all the concern warranted before was completely justified.
Right now, the
That's
president
crazy.
of the United States
Check it
is
out.
running the largest crypto scam in
Boom. Oh my god. I'm pre-watched. I'm a fucking oh my god. Oh my god. I am 500 IQ, okay? My brain is moving at 500 miles per hour right now. Holy shit. Oh my god. I am predicting what Destiny is about to say next, and I just simply say it, okay? I'm a fucking genius. That's what I am.
Which
Which
is
is
human history.
horrific.
Okay,
Dude,
all right.
but if
Yeah.
you're talking about where do you balance all this out? I've got one person over here that's telling me you just shouldn't even be able to do this. Let's make sure that we're doing CBDCs. And then you've got a guy over here that is fucking wild westing it, making
CBDCs, cock and ball torture, CBTC, cock and ball torture, cum edition. I don't fucking know.
like
Okay, whatever.
just the easiest thing in the world to bribe him, which is god awful. But at least he's trying to make America the
Yeah, exactly. Woe be me, Mr. $400 million in net worth.
innovation
Yes.
home for crypto, which when you know that growing is the only way to get out of this, somebody has to
Like this reminds me of like a proto red pillar that has never grown out of his red pill arc, right?
lengthen the
Yeah.
runway on US treasuries. And the best idea that I've
Like except he's not about like women. He's not about getting women. It's more like just straight up just crypto.
seen,
right?
it may not be the best, but the best idea I've seen is to create a one-to-one backed stable coin
stupid.
with treasuries. And if you do that, you create instantly an international market for US treasuries. It will not stop the problem, but it will buy us more time for people to figure out what they're going to do.
Isn't
to
there already an international
slowly-
market for U.S. Treasuries?
No, because people can't get, right now, if you try to get into international treasuries, you already have to be in a government where you have access to that. So that already rules out God knows how.
Wait, private
what large
investors can
percentage
buy.
of
Crypto scratch tickets for Zoomers? No. At least scratch tickets is more fair than crypto because with crypto, it's almost always a rug pull. It's almost always a rug pull scam. At least with scratch tickets, it isn't like someone who is rigging the scratch tickets. It's like trying to get that scratch ticket into a person who that they're trying to essentially rig, right? At least with scratch tickets, you actually see poor people winning. With crypto, it's only rich people winning, and they're trying to trick the poor people into buying crypto. Like that's what's
Treasury bonds.
Yeah, we're not worried about those.
Yeah.
We're talking about the average guy in fucking Kenya that has a cell
like people are committing suicide because of crypto rug pulls.
phone, and that's it. He's got a governmental currency that's terrible, and so he can't save money in that. He would be way better off in US dollars. He would be way better off buying US treasuries, but he has no mechanism with which to do that. He doesn't even have a bank account. So many people worldwide would suddenly be able to get access partly because it will allow people to innovate and create things like stablecoins that they make available wherever. And as long as you have something that can be audited and you have a one-to-one backed with the stablecoin, you are still going to get inflated. So people need to be aware of that. But the inflating USD is far better than virtually any currency on earth right now. So people all over the world would be like, oh my God, there's now all of a sudden there's massive appetite for whatever appetite there is for the digital currency. There will suddenly be an appetite for the treasury.
How do you buy, who's doing the currency conversion if you're buying a stablecoin? So like, let's say somebody in Kenya wants to buy a stable coin in the United States. Is this being held like on a US owned treasury?
The mechanism by how that would work, it would certainly be, one would assume, the initial crop are going to be American companies that are they're domiciled here. They know all the regulations. They build the stable coin. It's all backed one-to-one with treasuries. And now they make it available for whatever. They make it available as a phone company. They make it available as a farming consortium, whatever. I mean, there will be untold amounts of innovation once there's clear regulation and people know what they can do.
Okay. I don't know if that would work in practice, but okay.
I obviously feel very strongly that that will.
Yeah, you feel really strongly. Okay, I'm sure you do.
And that we have to have some ideas around how do we move forward with elongating the runway so that people.
You know what else is elongating? No. Someone else's dick into your wife's ass. Yum, 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 yum.
People can migrate off of the dollar in an orderly fashion.
Okay.
Because if that happened fast, that would make 2008 look like a trip to the bank. Like it would be catastrophic.
So would the U.S. government would just have no more control over the currency then, or
the U.S. government, if it defaults on its loans, will not be able to get loans.
the U.S. government should never default technically, right? Because they can always produce more money.
You just hyperinflate your currency.
Sure.
So at some point you go, either we hyperinflate and nothing matters, or we recognize we have to default. Both are catastrophic. So pick whichever one you want.
Okay.
I heard you say in a recent stream that you're putting yourself in this crazy position in terms of you've now really become a target, but you're doing it because you actually want to make things better in America. So what is that vision of America that you have in your head that would be better?
No, you don't understand, okay? Destiny actually wants to make things worse. So then he is able to gain a foothold again in the streaming industry, okay? Just kidding, okay? Okay.
Civility has to come back on the right, and they have no reason to bring it back, and they've benefited too much from being uncivil for so many decades. And so there has to be a recognition that you can't be civil with an uncivil side, because it's an evolutionary trap where they can just indefinitely take advantage of you. It's like the thing I've leaned in a lot to is like the tit for tat strategies or whatever that dictate how two sides can treat each other.
Okay, so I've
Ooh, we should talk about that.
heard you talk about that before. The tit for tat strategy, though, they found that there was one strategy that beat tit for tat.
It's called tit for tat with like 10% forgiveness or something. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We're at like 10,000% forgiveness right now.
So to you, it's just, that's never going to work.
It definitely doesn't work. And we've seen the Republicans take advantage over and over again of the environments we live in. They're pushing the boundaries on everything so much. I guess we disagree on the magnitude of that, but I mean, I would factually just point to things that the Trump administration is doing that have never been done in all of, or at least in any recent U.S. history. And I would say that like the problem is that Republicans feel, one, I only have to argue with people on the left or center about this because on the right, the Republicans understand this because they say the exact same things I do when they're talking to the right or independents, and they know what I'm saying is true, and they give that advice to their side. But then they come and they hand-wring on our side, and for some reason, liberals seem to agree with their hand-wringing. But basically, if one side is led to believe that there will never be accountability for their actions, then they have no incentive not to be acting in the most unaccountable way possible. And I think that that's where the Republican Party's been at for a majority of my lifetime.
And do you think that one, how do you plan to make that contribution? So if you are going to attempt to get the right to dial back the rhetoric, what's the strategy?
Reframing and just making people understand the problem that's happening, I think, is the first big thing. Because I think somehow the conservatives have gotten a hold on like every part of the media apparatus. On the right-wing channels, they can just lie with absolute impunity and with no shame. And then on the left-wing channels, you're stuck talking about the lies on the right wing. And the analogy I use is when you're on defense, you're never gaining ground, and most you defend your territory, and that's it. And I think more people need to be aware that the right has...
Exactly. You need to be on the offense. Listen, okay? If you get it, you get it. If you don't get it, don't worry about it, okay? Okay? When people are complaining about black fatigue, okay? You complain about white exhaustion, all right? Don't just say, oh, well, that's racist. Oh, well, that's racist. No, you need to attack back with the same energy, okay? Say, I know what you're doing. You're doing white exhaustion. I have white exhaustion right now. I'm exhausted of white people.
managed to dictate the talking points everywhere, and it's an unwinnable fight, basically.
Why are they able to dictate the talking points?
Because I think the left is concerned with standards and governance, and the right is not. So there'll be an impetulant child, and they'll scream, and they'll kick and cry, and they'll beg the Democrats to come and save them, like they're doing now, begging them to turn back on the government, because for some reason we've had two of the longest shutdowns in U.S. history under a Republican president with a Republican Congress, or like when they lost their majority speaker
When was
speaker
this?
seat, and they were begging Pelosi, can you guys
Uh-oh.
like vote for not McCarthy, but whatever the next guy was,
Terrible.
please, because we lost our majority speaker seat somehow for the first time in U.S. history. They just don't care about governing.
But okay, so you're just saying the drama of acting like a petulant child just controls the news cycle?
Basically, yeah. So they can lie with impunity about things. Everybody's stuck trying to talk about it or defend it. Then because they don't care about governing. So for instance, right now, Mike Johnson is just totally happy dismissing Congress, not bringing anybody new in to avoid the Epstein file shit, to avoid governing. They don't care. The government shutdowns, they don't care. Trump's not talking about like opening the government again. As long as he feels like he can get away with it politically, he's totally happy to keep it going indefinitely. So if they're not concerned with governance, then they're just going to kick up whatever talking points they can. And then the left, for whatever reason, feels like they have to respond to those talking points. And then they're stuck in this weird trap of saying like, we don't want to give 1.5 trillion to illegal immigrants for healthcare. Like that's not even a real thing. Like it's a thing they say. But it's because they're not held accountable on any media platform. They can just lie and then walk away and nobody really says anything about it.
Okay, that seems to say more about the public than it says about them, or it says more about algorithms. So you've obviously become very popular. You don't let people get away with lies. So from that perspective, why do you think the contagion of your content isn't larger? I'm not sure the right way to ask that question, but if you're already doing the thing, which is you control the discourse, you talk about what you want to talk about. You're obviously very good at it. You get invited on the biggest shows, you get on big stages. What does it tell you about the broad audience that doesn't, I guess, catch more fire?
Well, for the right, it's incredibly unpopular. Once I became more aware of these patterns, I didn't talk to any more large right-wing figures because I wasn't willing to play the same game, because they're not looking for actual critical pushback or challenges. They're looking for more performative stuff. Even Joe Rogan is too scared to invite Gavin Newsom onto his show, despite the fact that he'll shit talk California and
Oh yeah, fuck. Oh my god, that's something I have to cover as well. Oh my god. Yeah, that's something I need to cover as well. Oh shit. It's specifically about so apparently Sargon of Akkad did not want to debate Lonerbox because he says that Lonerbox is like some kind of socialist grifter kind of person. Yeah, apparently Shofra Taco sent me like this entire thread, this entire like context of crazy shit that is happening on Twitter right now. And because Stardust is Lonerbox's editor, I think. I forgot. Yeah, I think that yes. I think that Stardust is Lonerbox's editor. Stardust is also like fucking beefing with with uh with these like fucking far right wingers, cringe far right wingers who are all trying to hide from Lonerbox. Like they're all hiding from Lonerbox, and they're all people who have said essentially, "Oh yeah, by the way, we are totally open to debate anybody who is willing to come on. I'm totally willing to argue and debate and discourse and stuff like that because we're all about free speech." So it's just completely and utter cowardice, just the most brain dead stage 4 cancer type shit, right?
Gavin Newsom
Jesus.
constantly. He's too afraid to have the conversation. When the right wing sees legitimate criticism or challenge, they avoid it like the plague. And then their own fan bases, I think, are deluded into thinking they are accepting challengers.
I think I have to ask a follow-up question.
Go.
I'm so sorry to
Follow up, whatever you
interrupt.
want.
So
Stablecoin based on US treasuries would never work in practice, and it's one of the most retarded things I've ever heard crypto worlds talk about, which is saying something. I know nothing about it, and even it just sounds retarded, okay?
So
So,
you're saying
therefore, it
that
is retarded.
the right controls the talking points, and that's what makes the left sort of always just playing defense.
Yeah.
But why, if the right is able to control the narrative by being a petulant child, and we're just saying basically drama gets clicks, are you saying that the left is up against a fund?
See, you know what the problem is? Is that people like to equate debate wins with validating their manhood. Okay, the why people like, for example, if you just frame everything in the frame of like people taking masculinity with one another, everything starts to make sense. Why do people use like sexually charged language when it comes to debates, right? Why do men want to challenge each other? It's because they want to vampire away someone else's masculinity, right? Andrew Wilson avoids a debate with Pisco because Andrew Wilson is afraid that his masculinity is going to be challenged due to Pisco. And Pisco wants a debate because he wants to be perceived as more masculine than Andrew Wilson. People are running from a debate from Lonerbox because they don't want their masculinity to be challenged. They don't want to be perceived as the loser. Everything that is going on is influenced by this toxic masculinity, right? I don't know. Like that's just kind of the frame that I kind of look at things. Just mainly because also I don't know. These are just like really egotistical people. So you have to analyze things from the from the way of like fucking from like masculinity vampirism that is essentially going on. Yeah. I'm so fucking blackballed on crypto that I swear 100 years from now, the farming of new cryptocurrencies will be banned and solely relegated to black markets and crime based.
Fundamental part of just the human experience that the left and the right both crave drama. And so the left and the right both watch right figures throw tantrums.
Well, the left is still trying to keep the country working is the issue. And if the left...
the political chattering class, like they should still be able to get cycles. Or are you saying...
I say that Pickle Jar did more immense damage to his masculinity. Yeah, I know, right? Dude, of course he doesn't want to debate Pisco.
The only cycles that matter are the government officials themselves.
Well, there's two separate things. So like when Biden came in, Biden tried to govern the country. He said he was going to be a president for both people. He wasn't on Twitter all the time firing off crazy things. He passed a historic amount of joint legislation, some of which Trump tried and failed to pass. Like Biden came in to govern the country. And Trump came back to tell lies and to make a mockery of everything. And after we get through whatever we get through here, whatever this disaster is, we're going to have to bring in Democrats again to govern the country. If Democrats want to play the same game Republicans are, they basically would have to give up in governing and say, okay, fine, I guess we're just going to sink the ship with both of us now, and we're not going to keep us afloat anymore. So because Democrats are trying to actually govern, they're playing like a game where they're trying to practice like policy and play politics at the same time. And MAGA has abandoned policy and they're just playing politics, and it's kind of impossible to win that game.
So when you say policy, because I look at what's going on with Trump and I see the most active president.
It's an irrational waste of electricity, GPU, compute. It also like there's just a bunch of people just like fucking mass buying GPUs, right? Falsely completed the debt ceiling with passing a budget in my mind. Will think more about it when less tired. May update my priors. Okay, I got you.
In terms of trying to shape a America that I've ever seen in my life. But because he's doing it by fiat,
by illegally, yes,
that's where you're like, this isn't governance, this is some bullshit.
No, it's authoritarianism or dictatorship.
But you're saying like, so policy is specifically, you want to see them engage with Congress,
like real lasting policy, like Trump's tariffs. The next president could just get rid of them like that,
right?
And I think the Supreme Court, I think, is hearing arguments on it now. I think the Republican Senate just voted to rescind them finally. Like, okay, maybe the president shouldn't be able to unilaterally dictate economic policy.
He can veto it.
Yeah, I think that both sides have to come back to wanting to govern the country. It can't constantly be, I would argue, Democrats picking up the pieces from horrible Republican governance over and over again. The population needs to be better convinced that Republicans can't govern, and they've refused to govern. And we're in the middle of another record-breaking shutdown right now because of their refusal or inability to govern.
Well, it needed to be longer, which is why like I'm a little bit surprised that Stephen had the take that he had, right? I don't, because Destiny seems to be very he seems to be very consistent in how provocative he wants to be, which is why his take on the shutdown potentially ending surprised me in that way, because I thought that he wanted the shutdown to last until people were literally dying en masse, because he wants people to learn the lesson, right? But I don't know, I guess at the end of the day, he's just a big softy, so he's not willing to see people die because of the shutdown, right? But that's not enough for me, because I want to see people die. Okay, we're not the same. Okay,
and
sorry.
Like once the Republican Party has come back to being willing to govern, then we can have better conversations on policy, and we can go back to...
Do you think in policy, or do you think in like the cultural battle of it all? Like when you think about your contribution, is your contribution almost aimed at the audience? And you're like, listen, this is how we should be thinking through this.
My contribution is aimed at the audience. I'm not like I'm not part of a think tank. I can't like suggest policy to Congress on yet.
Very interesting. Understood. Okay, so do you think like would you most like to reach the right, or do you think that they piss me off so much I'm never going to be able to speak to them? I think that's sort of a lost cause. So it's like I've got to speak to the left, tell them how to metabolize
so in the past
behavior.
I think I have a gift for being able to speak to both sides if I'm trying to do this very effectively, and I did that for a while, but about a year ago, I guess I felt like I identified that the left just doesn't have very many strong voices that are advocating for itself. And that especially now, as I've seen the second No Kings protest come up, I think there is a huge group of center-left people in the United States that just feel unrepresented and unheard. And then especially when I look at the success of Gavin Newsom, just got Prop 50 passed, I'm like, okay, well, these are like, we need more strong, hey, this is a center-left person that's not just trying endlessly to understand and be compassionate to an unhinged right that's
edgy queen. Yeah, but like I'm not just saying it for the sake of being edgy, right? Because if you really think about it, like people will literally not learn until people start dying, right? And even then, there's no promise that people will learn, because if you think about it, people have not changed their vote, despite the fact that they have family members literally dying from COVID, Okay, if it's the case that not even COVID killing like more than 1 million Americans is not even enough to deter someone, what will, right? There has to be something. There has to be something out there that would like shock someone into that, right? I mean, I don't care if I don't care if they won't change their mind. I just care about where the blame is going. I care about the social battle, right? Of things that are happening. As far as I'm concerned, like this might really suck to say, but I think a bunch of Americans dying might actually be worth it because we just have no choice at this point, right? I just don't know. Like that's just the way that I kind of think about things. It sounds really edgy, but I just don't see. I just don't see. I don't. I'm sorry. I'm like, yeah, that's it. Just let the poor starve by using them as political pawns. Yes. Yes.
Taking us further and further off the cliff. Like there are things that we should stand for on the left. There are policies that we should fight for, and we can be proud and fight for those things without having to constantly capitulate or be, you know, understanding of people that are in our mind trying to destroy the country.
Now, those you don't have a specific thing in your mind. It's just I want to make sure that I.
What do you mean by specific thing in mind?
Well, so I said, what policies do you want to see go forward? You're like, look, I'm not a think tank. I'm speaking more to the audience. But if there are policies that you feel like you're fighting for,
for policies, I mean, in general. I mean, like I said, I don't even have policy debate anymore, but for policies, like basically a realistic assessment of the world that leads to greater levels of financial and economic integration with the world. So we should be the heads of.
I would say it's not worth it like that. I would say the reason why I disagree with that is because I understand why someone might be a little bit like, I don't know, like they don't want to kill anyone like that, right? Or they don't want people to die or something, but that's just politics in general, right? Whenever you make a decision, it's not like it's not a decision without any kind of pluses, right? Or it's only pluses or something, right? Generally, if you're making a decision, sometimes there will always be cons to decisions being made. When you go out to war in the Middle East, you'll always acknowledge that you're going to kill a select number of innocent people, right? When you go to war in the Middle East, you're always going to acknowledge that you may or may not just create like a new insurgency group that will end up becoming the next big terroristic threat in the Middle East, right? When Ukrainians defend themselves against the Russians, they will also acknowledge that a subsection of the Ukrainian army will be committing horrendous war crimes like raping Russian soldiers, right? We all acknowledge that there's going to be a cost-benefit analysis to everything, including playing with lives. But the reason why these are moral choices or like justifiable choices is because they're necessary, right? Because they're necessary. Because when you're backed in your corner and you have no other like room to go, you can't just make the decision to not fight. You can't just have no other choices left and just not do anything, right? The way I kind of think of it is like, it's just not possible. We can't live in the reality where we're not willing to sacrifice people at this point, right? When our democracy is actively being threatened and people are being black-bagged and being shipped off and people are literally dying from the Trump administration, that we aren't willing to make sacrifices like that. I'm sorry. And especially when we are actually actively gaining something from it in that moment, right? But yeah, anyway. That's
all these multilateral trade agreements instead of retreating from trade with other countries. We need to understand that there are incredibly.
It'd be okay with yourself on that position with the suffering come, you'd be screaming, yeah, sure. I'm willing to take that. Yeah, whatever. That's literally all of politics since the very beginning, right?
Powerful incentives to have trade deficits, and we benefited from that for a long time for reasons that people don't seem to understand. And
because you want to essentially create a market for US dollars?
Yeah, Trump killed 14 million people off cutting USAID alone. If it's worth it cutting food stamps and having people die, but we use that as a pawn enough, so then we win the next election and we restore USAID back to where it was, maybe we are able to save 2 million lives. Maybe we're able to save 3 million lives by restoring USAID instantly, right? These are the calculations that you have to make. These are the calculations that you would have to make, right? Yeah, I don't know. Like, is it worth it to like expect people to die from strategic decisions you have to make in order to save more lives in the future? I'm sorry, that's just all politics. Politics should be based off of utilitarianism, right? Yeah, anyway, whatever.
Kind of. It keeps
and like pragmatism.
our interest low, basically, on our debt.
Okay, that's the same
And it
thing.
allows us to fund our debt without having exorbitant high interest
never
rates.
cut food
Because a lot of people are
stamps.
holding
Okay.
USD, and that USD makes its way back to the United
Well.
States in the form of buying treasury bonds. That's why, despite everything Trump tried to do with the tariffs and everything else, when the inversion happened on the treasury yield curve and the yield started to go up, it was because people were losing.
Wait, food stamps, Foodshops, think about it. You would be the 5,000th person to make that joke. Okay, don't worry, okay? You're not new. People have made the joke about me being food stamps first month, okay? Trust
Faith in
me.
the U.S. economy. It's good sometimes to have a lot of USD out there in the world because investing in U.S. Treasury is a very good investment. It helps keep our interest down.
Do you think globalism was a mistake, or is that something you want to see us get back to a sensible version of?
No, I think it's crazy. I think it's very hard to say globalism was a mistake. But I mean, there are always like ways that you can augment your policy to make it better, right? Like if I had a family member that died from a car accident, I don't think I would say, well, cars were a mistake. I would say, well, there's things we can do better with cars. There's things that we can do better with an integrated world. So
do you think that the world moves through phases where there's a time where globalism is going to work well, and then there's populist moments, like I would put forth, we're in a populist moment right now, and in a populist moment, you're always going to be protectionist. That my read is that humans move in cycles, and when you're in a populist cycle, you're always going to be protectionist. Like the two will always go together. Or do you see a way, even in a moment like this, there's a way to break out of that, and it looks like
yeah, and you have to take on like leadership roles there to break out of those moments. Like to become scared and locked down and protectionist in times of uncertainty, I think just furthers the cycle, and it further entrenches you into the cycle.
I think going from that position is wrong. I would say the food stamps ACA cuts are causing the same issue, an unmanageable increase in the cost of living for low-income Americans. Yeah, people need to realize that a lot of things, like politics, is just a trolley problem, right? Politics is literally just a trolley problem. You either let the train run over 5 people, or you can pull the lever yourself and kill that one person. Yes, you did kill that one person, but you did a utilitarian choice, right?
And I don't think it's usually producing the best outcome. Like I think America being a leader in the world in leading the way and trying to accomplish certain things, whether post 90.
Because in the case of the trolley problem, what is going on? Well, inaction is an action, right? Especially in the realm of politics, inaction is an action. So if you have inaction in that case, you kill 5 people because you did nothing, right? When you had every ability to do so. But yeah.
D1 or whatever, it's like leading with NATO, but not taking over all of Eastern Europe and everything because Russia's gone, or the Soviet Union's gone. Whether that means like making, foreign direct investment in China or other countries that we might have traditionally seen as not being in our interest, and then expanding our own markets as a result of that. Like there are ways to be leaders in these things. I don't know historically, unless I'm missing something, where the populist movement was healthy for the state of the country. I feel like generally these lead to bad outcomes. That populism always seems like a thing that has a phase, and then once people realize like, oh wait, I remember why this doesn't work, then you go back to the other thing, like actually working. I feel like that plays out over and over again. We're seeing it happen kind of in.
His cycles of protectionism thing tracks with history, was a very deterministic view of it. We should push as individuals for a more globalized world because it leads to better human outcomes. Yeah, sure, I would probably agree with that. Engaging with politics is tying yourself to a train track. Yeah, I'm okay with that.
Argentina now, for some reason.
Listen, okay. Sometimes in order to free yourself from a train track, you need to tie yourself harder to a train track. That makes no sense.
We're doing massive currency swaps with them because, well, I know why. It's because Bilyeu or whatever said nice things about Trump. Yeah, I would like to see that, like a big, bold America that's like taking aggressive steps in the world to cement its place in the world instead of being like a very scared child, I guess.
Okay, so as somebody who speaks to the audience, what is it that they're getting wrong that's led us into a populist moment? How do you talk somebody out of a populist moment?
I'm personally an idealist, so I probably can't be a politician. Every single time someone says, oh yeah, I can't possibly be a politician, that's fine if you say that. But just so you know, we have Marjorie Taylor Greene as a representative, okay? We have had Mitch McConnell as a senator. Like, no matter the worst chatter, okay, the most clueless chatter is probably going to do better than the best Republican senator, okay? Good luck. Okay, unless you're a Republican, then fuck you.
The most important thing that I think a lot of people misunderstand about the world is especially true of economics is people seem to think that everything is a zero-sum game. So if I work at Walmart and I earn $50 and then I go to Walmart and I buy something for $50, people think that like, oh, nothing happened. Like there's always the joke of like, oh, an economist might say there was $100.
Jay Jones said he would shoot his colleagues' children and won. To be fair, I thought that wasn't the real like quote, right? Like that isn't in its full context. It's that the only way for them to learn is if they get any kind of personal harm. So if his colleagues' children get shot, right, then therefore real harm has come to them, and that's the only way that would change Republicans' minds, right? But anyway, with regards to that, I just want to say this is why people don't care as much about this decency thing as much as you think it does, right? Which is why and the reason why people don't believe as much, and part of the reason that why you should believe that is because if you think about it, why are we here right now, right? Why do we have Trump, the president of the United States, talking about killing people, literally, right? And blackbagging people, literally, sending down the National Guard and doing crazy shit, right? So yeah, I don't know. I don't know. It's like, yeah.
Of GDP, but in reality, nothing has really happened. But that's not actually true. Like trade is generally.
It's just I just don't think people actually care about decency all that much, which is why you shouldn't be like placating to decency. You shouldn't be placating to decency. I'm sorry, you shouldn't be doing that. You just shouldn't be doing that, okay? Yeah. He also said if he had one bullet and Pol Pot, Hitler, and the speaker, he would take out the speaker.
As long as it's voluntary. Trade is always mutually beneficial.
Jesus.
If I'm giving you $20 for something and you're giving me something else, what I'm telling you is that
for the sake of TOS, I will not comment on that one, okay? Thank you.
your thing that you're giving me is worth more than my $20. And what you're telling me is the $20 I'm getting from you is worth more to me than the thing, right? This is like time investment for money and everything else, right? Capital investment, it all works this way, you know? You know personally.
I hate that Tom knows enough to describe these issues, but he doesn't have a prescriptive position on how to address them. He's missing the forest and the trees. Well, it's more than that, right? Maybe it's a bit more than that. I think he doesn't even know enough. Like I feel like this guy doesn't even know enough, right? If that makes sense. I don't think Tom knows enough to actually comment on any of these issues. Because he didn't even know that people were being black-bagged. Right? Babe is working hard. Thank you. You guys are the best, okay? Thank you so much, okay? But he didn't even know people were being black-bagged to El Salvador. What the fuck? How do you not know about that? That was like all over the news, right? He isn't even interpreting the same environment that we are. He isn't even interpreting the same reality as we are. He's not living in the same reality, right? Otherwise, he would know that Kilmar Abreu Garcia was a thing. No due process, and shipped off to El Salvador, kidnapped, essentially, right? I don't know. Like, this shit is so stupid.
Like getting people to understand that right now the biggest issue with the right in MAGA is that like if we have a trade deficit, that means they're winning, we're losing. Or if immigrants are coming to the country, it means they're coming here to win and we're losing. Or if we have H-1B workers, because they're winning and we're losing. Or if universities are doing well, then the middle class, upper class is winning, the working class is losing.
I'm just shocked that he's never heard of Kilmar Abreu Garcia. He hasn't heard of the blackbagging and the lack of due process. How has he not heard about it? It's just unhinged.
That idea that you have to fuck over everybody.
Not everyone can. Yeah. Fucking hell, $400 million in net worth, by the way.
Like the crab, keeping people from climbing out. I just think is incredibly corrosive to a positive environment where we can all grow.
So on immigration, which may be one of the most, when people get into a populist moment, they become very protectionist around that. What do you think about that? What's the right way to handle it for specifically America?
I think that you should look, one is we need to come together and have an honest conversation about what our goals are with immigration, which I'm saying because parts of the country have ejected themselves from real talk. We can't even have that conversation.
Tom Bilyeu's white migrant gains for Destiny, some who Destiny disagrees with, but he can talk to them, so he'd just rather fight with them. Sure. I was talking about his economic views. Yeah, sure. That kind of makes sense, right? He's like more of an economics, like fucking following kind of person. But it doesn't really matter. I think that Destiny operates best in an environment where he is able to actually describe issues to someone, bounce ideas off to someone in order to explain something, right? He needs someone who is able to ask him the question, right? So that he can provide the answer. Yeah, otherwise he is just in his own environment, like spewing stuff, and everyone is already on board with him, and he's just preaching to the choir, right? I don't know. He needs to have someone to bounce ideas off from.
Like, do we want immigrants from everywhere? Some people think we only want high-skilled immigrants. All immigrants are good. Low-skilled wages or low-skilled labor is also like incredibly important to keep the economy running in different areas. So do we want immigrants?
Really fast, let me ask the obvious question. Is an immigrant good if they don't contribute positively to the economy, but they do take public funds?
No, but that's almost impossible. Almost every person will be a GDP benefit. They might be a fiscal drain depending on. So like they might take more.
Spend that money.
Yeah, because it's always spent and circulating through the economy, right? But so it's up to us to figure out like, well, what is the balance? How much can we take on? How much can we afford? And then what are our goals, right? And our goals should.
He needs pushback. Well, yeah. I mean, it's also more entertaining, right? But I mean, to be frank, I don't want to watch Tom any more than I need to. This guy's a moron, and this guy's like fucking brain dead, right? But it's good for Destiny, and it's good for us, and it's good for politics. Yeah, play for 2 hours. Please be warned that excessive gameplay might affect your life. Yeah, I know.
To grow the economy, to grow the country for everybody, right? Yeah, and to adhere to some like core principle set of American values, whatever we define those as.
Okay, that was going to be my next question. So, does assimilation matter? Do you think that's a part of what's playing out right now?
Yeah, I think assimilation is really important, but it's weird because people talk about assimilation, but they haven't identified what those core American values are.
If somebody could give you a list, would the list be enough? Or it's like, no, listen, it's got to be something like, because like I have a list. So freedom, I'll say liberty as a principle, capitalism, and the rounded to a growth mindset that work hard, work your way up, get better at something, contribute.
Dude, I can't believe he says work hard. Like he's essentially saying pull yourself up by the bootstraps, right? But he's saying this from a position of being a crypto scammer, right? He's saying this from the position that he's a crypto scammer and like he's probably had everything given to him from the beginning of his life, right? He was placed in probably a very advantageous position in order to do something like that in the first place. Like, I'm sorry, but like you say to everyone else, pull yourself up by the bootstraps, but you never had to do that. You never had to go from being impoverished to someone who's extremely rich, right? Like maybe I can say that Asmongold has went through that. Like I would say he probably has that kind of bragging right, but I don't know. Like this just seems like the stereotypical rich, spoiled white brat to me, but whatever.
Individualistic in nature.
Foodshops, no, he made it on his own. Oh, you're sorry. Never mind. Okay. You're right.
Vaguely Christian ethics in the background.
Sure.
And by that, I mean very specifically a spark of the divine in the individual that creates the right of sovereignty.
Okay, sure.
Now, does that feel roughly American to you?
Broadly speaking, yeah, I would say so, yeah.
Okay.
I think the way I would conceptualize it, I'm going to use different words, it's probably the same thing, but like in a very, very basic sense,
we're literally the greatest country in the world when it comes to assimilation. Literally no other country does it better. In 1 to 2 generations, a cohort is essentially assimilated. I feel like there's more of a description of the American dream rather than pull yourself up by the bootstraps argument. Yeah, sure, I will say that, but at the same time, I feel as though like him having $400 million in net worth and saying something essentially that's a lighter version of that. Like I just think that he's just looks horrible. I don't. That's from me personally. If I had him telling me that, I would get pretty angry. All right, I would be like, "Excuse me, what is wrong with you?" Like, you know.
The liberal paradise is the idea that all of us can come from
Asmongold is actually a suburban kid, really?
Different ideologies and different moral codes and different ways of life, but we can come together and in some ways agree on some shared, for something to say laws, right? Like even if I think that adultery is wrong, and you might think adultery is okay, we both agree that murder should be illegal, right? So there's room for people to have different beliefs and ideas. They might go to their own churches, but there's also room where we come together and we say, but for all of us to function together, we have to agree on some things. And protecting people's ability to basically pursue one of the things I wish I remember who this quote was from. There's a guy who said something along the lines of like, my favorite thing about the United States of America is the US of A allows you to become the best version of yourself more than any other country does. And the idea.
Fuck. Was that the video?
Idea of being able to go to the United States and to pursue that as well as you can while sustaining the overall general health of the country.
You agree with me that Tom is forming opinions based off of super personal feelings, maskless logic? Yeah, absolutely.
Like these are very broad words, and you can get into the debate on what that looks like exactly.
Like, oh yeah, he cares so much about crypto and being very pro crypto. Well, if you look at his past, right, he's very closely tied to crypto in terms of his personal history, right? Oh, pull himself up by the bootstraps. Oh wait, it's because he's a co-founder of a company, right? He's like anti-socialism. He's very scared about socialism, whatever. Well, it's because typically rich people in the United States are like very rich people. I mean, the ultra rich, right? He is part of the ultra rich. Well, the ultra rich is like more prone to being terrified of propaganda from the righties, right? Like there's a lot of you can list off all of them. All of his thoughts just come from his personal experiences, but he's like working backwards from there in order to justify them logically, right?
Which is part of the country, is being able to debate.
You're up too late? Yeah, I know.
what exactly that looks like. I would say broadly speaking, that's like what the country should be about. Yeah.
Okay. How do you get people onto that? Like when you're talking to the audience, is it going to be stat based?
Check
Look at
Discord
how
too.
immigrants have worked, or this is how we should assimilate, or how do you, like when I look out at the world and I see the people that are having the biggest impact on galvanizing people around values, I unfortunately see things like Nick Fuentes, he speaks very clearly. But I, as a single person, am mortified.
I mean, it depends on who you're speaking to, and it depends on where you're speaking. Like if I was invited to like an economic forum to debate,
The knight is young. Okay, but can the knight consent?
an economist on the fiscal pros and cons of immigration, then we're going to be having a numbers conversation about what types of immigrants contribute more to our budget, I guess, right? If I'm talking to like a Nick Fuentes type person, then it's going to be a broader concept on like what is the character of our nation? How have we gotten to where we are today? Has immigration benefited us or hurt us? And what ways has it benefited and hurt us? And then going forward, how can we continue to capitalize on, assuming we agree that America is a great nation, how do we continue to benefit from the ways that we viewed immigrants in the past and protect from maybe some of the negatives that we've suffered as other people come here too?
Can I give you my darkest fear? And then I'll be very interested to see if your natural response is to be like, yeah, or if you will be able to talk me off a ledge.
Okay.
It is my experience that all adults can change and only 2% will. So every time that I yell into the void, I am trying to find that 2% that will actually change. But for the most part, all humans are automata. But some get a high roll on changeability. Others get a very low roll on changeability. I think all kids are very changeable.
He's like saying, yeah, I'm just built different from everyone else. I was born rich.
Changeable, but adults not so much. And so it does get a little disheartening sometimes to think, wow, like I'm really only speaking to 2% of people.
I think that my personal belief is your major.
That's literally all of streaming in this space, is that everyone uses you as white space, like white background noise, right? Very few people will actually engage with the actual value. And I have nothing against that. That's what I do as well, right? That's what I do with all content in this space. But that's okay. That's fine. That's just how things work in this space. It's fine.
Your personality traits are pretty low.
Maybe you're just boring. Maybe I am. Okay. Maybe I am boring. I'm sorry.
Locked in by the time you're like 15. I think it's very hard to almost impossible to like fundamentally change people. But I think that fundamentally, like we're like 99% the same. I think the thing that happens is our intuitions get hijacked and moved in different directions because of politics or groupthink or whatever else. And I think those things can change.
Meaning if you can get some sort of tipping point to happen in that group, then most people will just follow the group.
Yeah. Or if you can just get people to realize a thing, then they'll be like, oh, okay. They don't really have to fundamentally change. It just, an outer perimeter thing changes. And then they're like, okay, well, this still comports with the thing that I feel is important.
It's a very interesting insight. And I think that you're absolutely right that once the herd moves, then the herd moves. And so it just becomes a question of how do we move the herd?
I was talking to Tom. No, I understand. Do you delete all your VODs now? I like to pause and watch some part later, and now I unpause and it's unavailable. No, the VODs are on kick.com/foodshops/videos. I only unlist the YouTube VODs, so then you can technically rewatch them later, unless someone says something very bad, and in which it forces me to actually delete the VOD, but typically that does not happen, okay?
Unfortunately, a lot of things, and I hate this, you said I'm very smart. I consider myself to be quite smart. And even, I would say for myself, I've just had to learn a lot through experience. And I don't think there's a shortcut for that ever. I think you can go on almost anything, racism or whatever. Guns, right? For a lot of very far left-leaning people, guns are scary, and they might think that they would even take the principled position of like, guns are bad, I don't want anything to do with them, right? But it's probably not their position. It's more the concept of what they think guns are is bad. And even though that seems similar, there's a world where you take a leftist friend, like, okay, well, let's go shooting. Like, go to the range, have some fun. You can see the people there are chill. We're chill. We have some fun shooting. When you come away from that experience, it feels like I fundamentally changed from thinking guns are bad to thinking that guns are good. That's not really what's happened. What's happened is your thought was never guns are bad. It's guns are bad because they're like murder, scary weapons that are uncontrollable to guns are actually okay because they're not murder, scary weapons that are uncontrollable, right? And then you can make the same experiential argument, I think, for a lot of different things.
Speaking of guns, you've become arguably the most prominent voice on the left, certainly the most bombastic, that's going to get the biggest response. When you go now into public, given what's going on, do you worry that you've become a legitimate target?
I mean, a little bit. I think I still have the young man's energy of thinking he's invincible, I guess. So maybe if I get shot at, maybe I'll dramatically change that. But I was going to avoid going to events after the Charlie Kirk thing. But then I think it was Eric Trump and a couple congressmen and JD Vance and Elon Musk started like bullying me on Twitter. And I was like, well, fuck no. I'm not going to leave now. Because I feel like I'm in
bullying you?
Bullying me.
What is that? Bullying.
Like, yeah, tagging the FBI and saying I need to be demonetized or whatever. Yeah. So I think if I see that, one of my big things is to some extent you have to lead by example, and I'm like in one of the most privileged positions possible. So like, how can you ever tell people you have to fight against the system, you got to do this and that, and they're like, but also I'm too scared to go and speak at public colleges now. I don't know. I feel like for me to have any.
Yeah, I mean, hey, listen, all right, and you know, I've kind of thought about this too. I'm like thinking to myself, well, I'm 26 right now, okay? I'm 26 right now. I have a streaming career, okay? I actually make a living for once off of streaming, all right? Who knows whether or not it'll stay around or not? Like, I could be quitting in the next month because maybe I just feel burned out, or maybe the audience dies down so much to the point where I just quit and simply because it's not for me, right? Or something like that. In that case, right? I'm like, okay, am I actually okay with dying after I reach the peak, right? It's like, okay, so this was like my last item on my bucket list, right? Becoming a streamer. Okay, so I became a streamer at 26. Okay, I crossed off the last, like one of the last bucket list items. Do I just like, am I just okay with like being shot at in public now when I've like accomplished everything off my bucket list? Because if so, then it's like, I don't know. Like, I really have to think about it. It's like, have I come to peace with myself by accomplishing all my life goals? But I think about Destiny as like, okay, well, it seems like he has gotten everything that he has ever wanted, right? At some point, even though he has lost them as well, right? He has achieved his peak. He has been really low as well. But like, maybe that's just the right thing to do, is just to put yourself out there. And if you die from a gun, then, you know, it kind of is what it is, right? Because at least you already achieved everything. You might as well make your death mean something too, right? I don't know. It's a very deep and philosophical question to ask yourself and to discuss with others. But
serious or real political opinion, I have to be willing to do that. Otherwise, like, what does it count for? If I'm not willing to step out and do anything, then, you know, what? And at the end of the day, right, whatever risk exists for me, that risk might have been made 100 times worse after Charlie Kirk, but it's still probably a very, very small percentage, right?
Do you wear a vest or have security or anything?
There is a good amount of security. I'm not going to tell you what I wear. It's top secret. If I want people to know the caliber, they need to penetrate my...
That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's wild to think. Yeah.
Actually, you know what? Yeah, if you ever see a picture of me and I look fat, it's just because I have my thick 4 plates of ceramic armor and Kevlar vest, and that's the only reason. Otherwise, I weigh 105 pounds, 8% body fat.
Nice.
Yeah, even then it can't protect your neck. Wait, what did you say?
A vest or have security or anything?
There is a good amount of security. I'm not going to tell you what I wear. It's top secret. If I want people to know the caliber, they need to penetrate my...
That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's wild to think. Yeah.
Actually, you know what? Yeah, if you ever see a picture of me and I look fat, it's just because I have my thick 4 plates of...
No. If you ever see a picture and it's fat, it's because Rao Kittenhouse has probably put it through the fucking AI blender, and like it came out like he wanted to produce fat Destiny on purpose. Okay, that's what is actually happening. But yeah, sure, why not?
Ceramic armor and Kevlar vest, and that's the only reason. Otherwise, I weigh 105 pounds, 8% body fat.
Not.
I don't think that's true. 8% body fat, 105 pounds. Yeah, that's not a 105-pound individual. This is not an 105-pound individual. I see his double chin. I see how his beard is hiding his double chin. I see his little belly, okay? All right, you're not hiding that from me, okay? I'm sorry.
Nice. Yeah,
okay.
Okay.
Dude, he's falling for it. It's
I like it. Well done. You said you're about to go on a new diet.
He's
and gym journey,
so I can fight.
I like it. I'll be very interested to see how far that goes. Dude, every time we get to spend time together, we don't always agree, but
no, I don't believe Destiny. Okay, he's on that fucking Subway grind. Okay, dude, Subway is like, I'm sorry, if you're trying to lose weight, just don't eat Subway. Okay, like he's like eating Subway every single meal.
I do find you have a very sharp mind. You think through these things in a way that.
And he's more like 157 pounds, 22% body. Yeah, sure, that's more accurate. Wait, there's no way. He has to be lying here, right? What the fuck? I'm not even gonna try to DM him about this, just mainly because he's gonna reply with, "Oh, your mom" or something like that. It's like, oh my god, I can't. He's not gonna answer me seriously.
That gives me a fresh way to think about this. If you were gonna make one sort of appeal to the audience, you're willing to put yourself out there, you're willing to take risks to sort of sway where the public is pointed to get the herd to move. What would be the final thing that you would leave them with if they were just gonna focus on one?
It was clearly a joke. Okay, well, guess what? He did not perceive it as such. Okay, he believed it because he's a moron. All right, but this is not what someone with 8%, 105 pounds looked like. Also, not only that, isn't that like kind of underweight? Like that's bordering on underweight. If you go below, like that's pretty much on the border of being underweight, pretty much.
One thing.
I sent you a shirtless pic as proof. Please do not send any nudes to me. I don't want to receive them ever. If I see your penis, I am blocking you. Thank you, Radiant.
I think this is more feminine than masculine, but I learned this after my 30s. Writing stuff down can actually be really illuminating. I think especially as men, maybe because women go through like hormone cycles. I think as men, I don't think we're
Gamer playing Chaos, Zero, Nightmare.
always aware
New
of how our
game.
emotional state impacts our like how we're thinking, like cognitively. It doesn't feel like those two things are so connected, but they are. I think it's good sometimes to sit down and write out, like in a general sense, like where do you think the world is going in 1, 2, 3 years, right? So if you're on the right, you might think, okay, I think that our economy will be up a little bit. I think that the fears about Donald Trump delaying the election or trying to take over the polling booth, I think that's dramatically overblown. That won't happen. Write these things down because it keeps you honest with yourself. And then same thing, on the left, if you think that, I think that Democrats are going to sweep the midterms because our messaging's gotten better or whatever else, just like write things down, because what it does is in a year or two, when things start to happen, we're very good at lying to ourselves. And if you have it written down, then you can start to see, okay, am I actually making good predictions? And the important thing is that if you're making bad predictions, that's great, because then you can go back and you can say, okay, well, prospectively from that time, what could I have thought differently? Like, what am I missing? And then like change your thought patterns accordingly. There might be a thing that you're constantly over-indexing on or constantly under-indexing on, or something that you're just missing. And then it's good to adjust your thought pattern as you go forward. Yeah. So writing stuff down and making predictions and then like really holding yourself to check those every 6 to 12 months, I think is good. Because I think it's good for your personal life too, but.
No, agreed. Very much so. Where can people follow you now?
Hopefully, if my channel doesn't continue to get attacked, it's Destiny on YouTube, Destiny on Kick, and the OmniLiberal on X, but don't go to that one if you're sensitive, because it gets pretty crazy over there.
It most certainly does. Awesome. Well, guys, if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe. And until next time, my friends, be legendary. Take care. Peace.
Wow, I hate this guy, dude. This guy, oh my god. Yeah, I only think the latter half. I only think the latter half of this was the most entertaining, just mainly because from my perspective at the very least, I knew a lot more about the second half. And I have a lot more knowledge to work with. I also knew more about tariffs. So yeah, I knew a lot more about these. When it comes to China and stuff like that, I'm just completely out of my depth. So I felt like I was being clueless. So I'm not exactly, like, I didn't know what the fuck to say about that. So yeah. Is that Destiny's old studio? It looks just like that, right? Yeah, it does seem like Destiny's old studio. Which makes me think, does he have the old studio and the new studio? Like, as well? Like he has both of them? I don't know. Makes you think, right? Yeah, I don't know.